Welcome everyone. Today is July the 8th, 2024, and this is going to be gardening with Jennifer. So today I have my $1 garden rake I got at an estate sale. I have my free shovel that I got from, yes, if you're wondering about my shadow, I have my mosquito netting hat on, so I don't have a square head. It's a mosquito netting hat. So that's my free shovel. It was brand new. The neighbor gave it to me when, when I first moved here, because I had to shovel so much just to open the door. So he just gave me the shovel because I didn't have one. And he offered it to me. He's like, here, just take the shovel. And this was actually one that he got. He washes cars and details them on the side for one of his jobs. And he also does work for washing and detailing the vehicles from the hydro company employees, and he's gotten a whole bunch of free stuff from them, and this shovel was one of them. So this is actually a shovel that NB Power uses. So I think it's a good one. They're probably not going to use cheap, so this is a good shovel, so I'm using that. Got the rake on sale at Kent along with this shovel. So I got these on sale last year. And the most used garden tool is this one here. This here is what I use the most. It is a solid metal cooking spoon. So I've been using this for years, and I also use this to clean out my wood stove. Well, when you move here and you only bring like the small stuff that can easily be moved, and you didn't have garden stuff to begin with, you just make do with what you got. So multi-purpose tool, cleans out your wood stove ashes, and also is good in the garden. So that's what I'm using. I would rather buy plants than garden tools right now. So my main investment right now is food, and so I'm using what I got. So first thing I do, and this is important, this is something very, very important that I want to make sure people know about. If you don't do it, that's fine, but at least you know, you had the knowledge, you had the information. So here is my 5-gallon buckets. I bought a whole bunch of these because I needed a garden, and you can't really have a garden here. So unless you want to keep paying for crap loads, literally, of manure and make a garden, and that would take a lot, it's just more efficient to just use these. So anyways, I have clay and rock ground. It's clay and rock. I personally can't even shovel 1 foot of soil out of the ground because it's so hard. And I've tried, and half the shovel was rocks. So it's just easier for me. And also I have spine damage, so why not make things easier? So I'm using 5-gallon buckets until I can make raised beds. Now, very important things to remember. If you're using buckets of any kind, I see people all the time, they put some holes in the bottom. Yep, that's great. Lovely. Put some holes in the bottom. But what is most important that I don't see people do is putting holes in the side. See right there? I have several holes around here on the side. The reason I do that is so that if the water can't drain out of the bottom fast enough, then it can drain out the side, and you're not going to rot your roots. So often when you've got a bucket on the ground like that, some people will put their buckets on concrete, like the back of their driveway, side of their driveway, or porches, patio balconies, apartment balconies. So it's just really good to ensure you're not going to have a lot of water that can't get out, or it only trickles out very slowly. So that is the first thing I do. Now I'm going to show you the next thing I do. So I do not recommend the dollar store weed cloth or weed whatever fabric, landscape fabric. This stuff is cheap garbage. So if you put this down, your weeds are gonna grow right through it, and it rips and it rots. It is garbage. But I will tell you, it is excellent for what I need in my 5-gallon buckets, and it is cheap. So at our Dollarama, I bought big, it looks like a big roll. I'm not going to say it's a big roll because you don't get a whole lot, but you do get a decent amount. I think it's $4. I got it last year. I think it was $4, and I can show you later. I think I still have a brand new one. So I bought a roll of this stuff here, and because it was cheap. And what I do is I flip my bucket over, and I put the fabric and I cut around it, but I leave a little extra so it's not like flat right on the bottom. And then what I do is I put this here. Look at all these bug bites. I'm eating alive. And I've sprayed myself with a homemade vanilla. It attracts the bugs here. So I can't win. So I spray myself with vanilla. I even put it in a spray bottle. A homemade vanilla, aged 3 years. Actually, no, it's now 4 years. And I'm still getting eaten. So I at least have my mosquito thing so they're not biting my face anymore. But anyways, so I put this at the bottom. The reason I do this, I make sure I get up the sides too. So the reason I do that is so when you are watering your buckets and the water is draining out, you are less likely going to have your soil drain out of the bucket with the water. If you just have holes, most likely you're going to be losing a lot of your manure. And this is also good for raised beds. If you have the ones that are above the ground and they have like wood on the bottom, it's good to drill some holes and put some of this, or just an old 100% cotton t-shirt. You can use that. And the water can still drain, but you're less likely to get your soil to come out with the water. So this is just what I do to help be efficient with the soil. And then I'm going to fill it with manure. And then the last thing that I do, which is also extremely important, well, this is the most important actually, is my rocks. I have tons of gravel because I bought dump truck loads of it. When I was, I scraped all the grass and weeds, everything around my house, and I had gravel laid because that helps get rid of mosquitoes and bugs. Unfortunately, I didn't know about sand flies, so I helped get rid of the mosquitoes. Now I have sand flies, and they bite. They're horrible. Anyways, I have lots of gravel. So after I plant my beautiful peace rose there, that was number 1. That's Mickey, named after my old neighbor who had a peace rose, and that's how I learned. This is the most fragrant rose I've ever smelled in my life. Oh, there's a bug on it already. So it is, I already broke this earlier, so I'm actually just gonna finish breaking it, and I'm gonna try and clone this. And it was already broken off. It was just hanging on by a little piece. So unfortunately, it had a bud. Anyways, that's okay. So this is the most amazing fragrance. I've never smelled anything this beautiful. So, well, bayberry is actually one of my top favorites, but I spent 15 years trying to find this rose bush. So I finally found it, and that's the first thing I planted. And then I got my strawberries. So this here is this one, black fly, and this one here were both runners from last year. So last year I bought brand new strawberries because I never had strawberries before, plants. So I bought new plants, and I got them at Canadian Tire. I think I paid $14, which I just think is ridiculous. Who wants to pay $14 for a strawberry plant? But I got them. And then last year, as they were giving off tons and tons of runners, I would cut the runners off when I would see the roots start to grow a little bit, and I would plant them. These are both from a little tiny runner last year. So these are looking beautiful. I'm so proud of them. They are Very, very nice shade of green. I don't know if you can see that. And they also have strawberries starting to grow on them. So these are doing amazing. And now that they are in a bucket of manure, I'm hoping that they are going to just bloom like crazy and I will have an abundant crop and everything will be great and wonderful. But this is the most important thing I do. I highly recommend everyone doing this if you can. Look how pretty that is. See those rocks? I pick out rocks on the ground and I put them around the bucket, around the top. So what I do is I leave, oh wait, this one is a little bit too much, but I don't put it right at the plant unless I do it by accident. But I put the rocks close. So I just leave a little bit of space here and then I fill it with rocks. So the reason I do this, I just put one there. Okay. So the reason I do this is that number one, it is going to keep the sun from drying out the soil. And I will tell you, this works better than I ever thought it would before, because I had stuff in my greenhouse right under the Tough Tax. It was boiling hot in there. And I did not have to water for like a week because the plants were hot, but the soil was still really damp. So this is amazing. And I do this with every one of my 5-gallon buckets. It also protects your leaves. So especially with strawberry plants, I don't want my leaves to be laying in the soil, especially when it's damp. So by having the leaves laying on the rocks, it's helping to protect your leaves from rotting. And this is also going to, well, it kind of goes with the first part. So I find I don't need to water anywhere near as often as I have to, because it stays nice and cool and you don't have to water as much. Now with 5-gallon buckets, depending on your soil, usually you do have to water a lot because the water just drains out the bottom. But if you have really good soil and you have your rocks and you have your drain holes and stuff, you should be fairly good. So you don't have to water this every day, no matter how hot it is, or you shouldn't. So this, I highly recommend. I do it to every single bucket, and this is where I make so much extra work for myself, but it will pay off later. So, okay. This here, I haven't got to yet. Most important thing is to get my plants in the buckets because I don't want them to die. So that's number one. And then number two, once my plants are all planted in buckets, then I'm coming with scissors and I'm going to cut all of this out, and I'm going to put this weed shield down here. Do you hear all that traffic? That's another reason I can't wait to move. So, side note, if you're looking to move into the country, just because it's country does not mean it's quiet. It is so noisy here. So I'm going to put that weed shield down over this whole area all the way to the end of the raised bed. And then all my 5-gallon buckets are going to go there in rows. Over here, my raised bed is going to be weeded out, and then manure hand shoveled in there. That's a lot of work. So for all you people with excavators and tractors, you know, you are so fortunate. So just really say some prayers and thank God for those tractors and excavators. So you don't have to shovel this by hand, because this is a bit much. The 2 dump truck loads. I have to hand shovel this. So that's going in there. I'm going to plant my stuff in there that I'm planting. And then as I'm planting, I'm going to have a bucket of rocks, and I'm going to put my rocks around all my plants. And then once everything's planted, all the little spaces I'm going to fill with other things like carrots, onions, whatever, as space fillers, and also plant some like stones around the small little seeds. And so this is going to be mostly all rock where there's not plants. And here's the biggest, most enjoyable reason this will pay off, because weeds do not grow through rocks. So not only is it going to keep your soil nice and damp, and it's also going to protect the leaves, but you're not going to have to deal with weeds, because this year's been ridiculous. As you can see, weeds have gone wild, and I never had this before. Last year it wasn't like this at all, and this year, even when I was starting my seeds, it was like 90% weeds growing, and I couldn't figure out which one's the seed growing, which one's the weeds. So I have to let everything grow and then get out my scanner on my phone and take pictures and try and see which thing is the thing I'm trying to grow and which one is the weeds. It's just horrible. So this here is going to save you. Okay, it is a lot of work. I'm telling you, it is a lot of work doing this, but it's going to save you so much work later, makes it worth it. So yeah, I don't enjoy doing all this bending and lifting in the hot sun, but it's going to save me so much work going forward. And all of my berries, my rose bush, and actually even I'm putting peppers in 5-gallon buckets this year, because peppers are a perennial if you have the right environment. So all of these are actually going to end up in the greenhouse before the first frost. So I'm hoping I can extend the growing season on them. So I definitely want to keep these as healthy as possible. And because my berries and my rose bush, and there's a grape over there, and rhubarb and all that stuff, gooseberry, all of these, they are going to stay in these buckets. And then next spring, I'm going to bring them out. They're still going to be in the bucket. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but for perennials, or like rose bushes and stuff, you only have to do it once. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but you only do it once. If you're doing this with your vegetables, then yeah, you'd have to take your rocks out, and then you want to dump your soil into a compost pile and then put fresh soil in next year. But for these, it's like a one-time thing. Except if you want to add some fresh manure, you can take the rocks out, add some manure, and then put your rocks back. Another thing that I want to mention with the rocks that I've learned the hard way, it's not really like that bad, but if you are in an area where you get a lot of water, I highly recommend to put your rocks right at the top. Make sure that water cannot sit. So like right here, see how it's sunken down a bit? So you're going to get a lot more water sitting. I didn't do that on purpose, but I mean, it just ends up, I can show you. But for the most part here, I mean, I have abundant water, and I also have direct hot sun, so I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. But if you're in an area where you do get a lot of water, I would highly recommend make sure your rocks are right to the top, so water can't sit. If you get a really quick downfall of rain, and that water can't drain fast enough, it's going to sit. But if the rocks are right at the edge at the top, then the water has nowhere to sit, and it's just going to roll off the rocks on the ground. But if your rocks are lower, then it's going to roll off of your rocks, and it's just going to sit there because it has nowhere to drain until it reaches the top and it drains out the bucket. So that's just another point that I think is important to know. And I'm going to be out here working, and I have piles of buckets in the greenhouse. I just brought out a few, but I'm going to be out here working really hard trying to get all these planted, and I am going to show you the next step later. So I am super excited. This brings me so much joy. So I hope that you learn something, or that you can share some information with somebody who might find it interesting or good to know, and you can help them out. So I want to make sure everyone is encouraged, and just know, if you have an eyesore like this, don't get discouraged because there's so there's so much you can do. If you only have this much space, that's okay. So just remember, it doesn't matter how much space you have. You'd be surprised how much you can grow if you utilize it correctly. So look at this. This not much different than the space you get on an apartment balcony. So do I have 13 acres? Absolutely. How much of it am I using for a garden? This much. So, it doesn't matter. People always say, I don't have land. I don't have, a bit, property to put a garden in. I don't have this. Well, guess what? I have all that. And it doesn't matter because I have no way to use it. I don't have a tractor. I don't have I'm not going to go out there picking rocks out of the ground. And I'm not paying for 100 dump truckloads of manure to put over top of the ground so that I can garden. I'm using what I have available to me that is within reason. So what can I do? Well, I can put weed shield down and I can put 5-gallon buckets here. It's close to the house, it's close to the hose, and I can utilize that raised bed, and that is it. My deck, but this is it. I'm using the buckets I have, the raised bed, and that's it. How much space is this? How much space is this little piece of ground plus my raised bed? This is like a tiny little piece of a standard city backyard. So for the people who live in the subdivisions, or you just have this little backyard, I'm pretty sure it's bigger than this. So just know that, if you just have this little bit of space here, watch me grow. Watch and see what I can grow in just this little bit of space. If you can't put a garden in the ground, that's fine. Use 5-gallon buckets. Use raised beds. Just be creative. So I want to make sure everybody does their best and grow something. Even if all you can afford is 5 buckets and a few bags of soil at the store, that's still 5 things. You can put a tomato in one and pick tomatoes that are indeterminate, or like cherry tomatoes. Them things are prolific. They just never stop growing. So try to grow some cherry tomatoes. You can pick your cherry tomatoes, put them in the freezer, and when you have enough, you can take them out, put them in a roaster, cook it down, make pasta sauce. You just use an immersion blender and it blends the skin in with the tomatoes, and you would never know. You don't have to sit there and peel them. So you can grow cherry tomatoes in a bucket. You can grow peppers in another bucket. You can grow a bucket with some onions, one with some carrots. You'd be surprised. I would, if you only have a little bit of space or a few buckets, pick things that you're going to get a lot of harvest out of. So, your root crops, you get one thing per seed. So tomatoes, peppers, okra, zucchini, those things they're just going to keep producing. So have a bucket of zucchini, one with cherry tomatoes, another one with peppers, and another one, you could have okra if you like that. Or you could do just anything that is going to keep on producing stuff. That peas, you can pick peas and it'll just keep on growing some more. Green beans, get some bush beans that will keep on producing until it's too cold and they can't produce anymore. So even if you can only grow 5 things, you'd be surprised how much you can harvest out of one green bean bush and a pepper, a tomato, a zucchini. So, just think of it that way. It doesn't matter if you're pressed on space. Just think of it as a challenge and get out there, get planting, do something. Even if it's herbs, plant some herbs. Who doesn't love herbs? And if you have a cat, get some catnip. That is a bug repellent as well. Mosquitoes don't like it. Plus, it's healthy. It has a lot of benefits and you can eat it. So that's my video for today. I'm going to get back to my work. And oh my gosh, the bugs are terrible out here. So I'm also going to test the theory on healthy soil repelling bugs. So I keep hearing about, well, if your soil is healthy enough, you're not going to have bugs, because the reason you have bugs attacking your plants is because they're lacking something, and it puts off like a frequency or an odor, and that's what attracts the bugs. But if you have manure and you have good soil, then you're not going to have bugs on your plants and in your garden. So stay tuned, because I got 2 dump truck loads of manure to try this out with. So I will let you know as time goes on if I notice a difference in bugs. If I'm seeing, right now they just got planted, so you got to give them time. But after a while, I'm going to keep checking. If I see bugs on my plants, I will let you know if this works or not. This is Holstein cow and chicken manure mixed up. Okay, there's a little bits of twine or rope from hay bales, and there's some plastic bags that got mixed up in there. I have to pick them out. But this is some seriously good local manure. It's just one cow. They got rid of the other ones. It was a dairy business and they just got out of it. But there is no Grazon. There is no Roundup sprayed on any of the hay or any of the straw. There's just little bits of straw, not much. But none of that was sprayed on here. So this is all natural, really good quality manure that is not from a commercial establishment or anything like that. So I will test this out and let you know my experience on bugs in your garden and on your plants if you're using good compost manure. So that is all I have. I got to get back to work, and I got to go get something to drink, because good gracious, it is so hot. And I have to put this in water, and then I'm going to try and clone it. So I will see you on the next video. And if you have any tips, any good advice, please put it in the comments, because I'm still learning. So I have tried to grow in the past, but the last couple years have been terrible. I would get my seeds to grow, and then I don't have anywhere to plant them. I don't get buckets, I don't get soil until it's like too late in the season, like the end of July. So that didn't work out. I at least tried. This year I'm a month late, but I think it's okay. And so this is going to be my first year of an actual proper garden. So I have tried in the past, but things just didn't work out. Didn't have raised beds, didn't have soil, didn't have buckets. It was awful. So I'm still learning, and I want to pass on as much information as I can to other people. So if you have any good information, put it in the comments and let other people see what you can share, and they might learn something too. And then I will pass on anything that I learn, anything that I've tried that works or doesn't work, and hopefully it helps out everyone, because I want everyone to have the most abundant and amazing, beautiful gardens, even if it's only 5 plants, because that's still better than no plants. And that it is naturally grown, it's not sprayed with stuff, it doesn't have chemicals, so you're improving your health. It may not seem like much, but it's a start, and there's nothing like fresh food off the plant. It does not taste anything like the stuff at the store. If you even smell a tomato plant and then you eat a tomato from the store, it's just completely different. So I encourage you and challenge you to grow as much as you can, even if it's a tiny little space, because you can do it. So post in the comments any advice, and I'll see you on the next video.